الحمد لله والصلاة والسلام على سيدنا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين. بعد أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. والعصر إن الإنسان لفي خسر إلا الذين آمنوا وعملوا الصالحات وتواصوا بالحق وتواصوا بالصبر. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala swears by time itself. And a lot of us now, we have more time. Whether it's because we are no longer in school or maybe doing schooling remotely, whether it's because our work situation, our employment situation has changed, whatever the reason. If there are no other reason, because of the governmental order and the isolation that has been imposed upon us in response to the COVID-19, the coronavirus health situation. So now we have time. Now how we use that time is extremely important, and it is critical, and it's demanding from us a very disciplined and a very methodic approach to how we're going to spend this time. If for no other reason than Ramadan is coming, and we want to get the most out of this coming Ramadan as we're entering into Sha'ban and into this mode of preparation. But also because, as Allah Ta'ala says, that إِنَّ الْإِنسَانَ لَفِي خُسْرٍ, by time itself, mankind is in loss. Like, this is the default setting for mankind. إِنَّ الْإِنسَانَ لَفِي خُسْرٍ إِلَّا الَّذِينَ آمَنُوا. The exception to this are those who believe. إِلَّا الَّذِينَ آمَنُوا وَعَمِلُوا الصَّالِحَاتِ. And now those who do the amal salih, وَتَوَاصَوْا بِالْحَقِّ وَتَوَاصَوْا بِالصَّبْرِ, and they are persistent and they hold on to, like, they're standing for this truth. They adhere to it. They represent it, and it's something that is that they embody. They embody the truth, and they embody now this patience with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And yes, it is patience with Allah because it is only Allah who is controlling everything. It is about this relationship that exists with me as the creation of Allah, and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is khaliqu kulli shay. So now this time that we have, how do we spend this time? Because time is usually these other preoccupations are usually the reason that we say that, oh, I can't do this, or I haven't done this because I don't have time. I don't have time because I have a wife and kids, or because of the husband. I don't have time because of work. I don't have time because of this responsibility. I don't have time because of that responsibility. Well, now a lot of those things that were occupying our time and eating up whole portions of our lives, whether they're justified or not, that's a whole other issue. But they were our excuses. They were our self-justifications. Valid or not, again, that's a whole other discussion. But they've been removed regardless. And now the question is, how are we going to spend that time? Are we now going to engage in those a'mal, for instance, getting up for the Salatul Tahajjud, making more nafil salat, fasting on Mondays and Thursdays, nafil fasting, engaging in the dhikr of Allah, reading one juz or one para of Quran every day, memorizing a single ayah. It's something that can be done by a family. It's not just, the whole family can get involved with the memorizing of Quran, memorizing of du'as, applying the sunnah of Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam in our day-to-day lives. We have an opportunity to do that now. Now the question for us is, are we going to take advantage of this opportunity and move closer to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, given the set of circumstances that have been presented to us? The alternative, if we're not careful, is that we will spend all of our time doing more of those things which are they're problematic to begin with. And they bring about the anger of Allah. They distance us from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. For example, social media, the number of text messages and phone calls, um, and the sharing of just random information, and a lot of misinformation and unconfirmed information, a lot of panic, a lot of fear, um, enormous amounts of time just being wasted checking the news and becoming absorbed in the news and kind of like feeding the fear. The fear is like it's in some people's lives, it's taking on a whole life of its own, and it's a monster that needs to be fed, and it gets fed by YouTube, it gets fed by social media, it gets fed by looking at the news, it gets fed by watching the stock market. And every Muslim has a choice. You can either fear Allah, or you can fear creation, and there is no there is no third alternative, there's no tertiary alternative. You're either going to do one or you're going to do the other. You can't do both. If you fear Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, then you have no fear of creation, because you know that Allah ta'ala is in control of everything. So the only doer, the Allah huwa al-fa'il, fa'alun lima yurid. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is the only one who is doing whatever he wants. So there is no fear of creation, because creation, the one who fears Allah understands that creation isn't doing anything. It is only Allah. But the one who fears creation will, because of this ghafla and because of this absorption and preoccupation with the different possibilities and potentialities that, oh, maybe this will happen, or maybe that'll happen, or something dangerous can happen from this direction, or something bad can happen from that direction. The sheer number of possibilities, an infinite number of possibilities and probability is going to cause that person that they won't even have time. Their heart, their mind will become so preoccupied with creation, they won't even have time to engage in the dhikr of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, or to develop a proper and appropriate mindset and it's a heart set of a Muslim, which should be maintained under all circumstances, not just during the difficulties, but even during the ease, even when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is bringing the ease and the comfort. So when we're not using our time wisely, then of course, then we're using it, for lack of a better way of saying it, foolishly. And social media, the internet, which is now a portal, it is that super highway into indulgence. So even those things that human beings are not engaging in anymore, indulging in anymore in the outside world physically, there are still avenues of indulgence that are completely open, and sins which can be engaged in completely just through the internet itself and in the privacy of one's own home. And then the other issue with electronic devices is, as we become more and more isolated, it should bring us closer together in our own homes with our own families, especially with the that very real possibility that we could lose family members to this virus. So these may be the last moments that we have with a particular family member, especially if they're elder, or if they have a medical issue which causes their immune system to become compromised. So we have to be very careful with these relationships and hold them precious and fulfill the rights of those that are close to us, and take advantage of these blessings that come in a human form. That we, parents and children and spouses and these people that are very close to us, that are also a blessing from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and not just sit, you have a whole family sitting in a room and everybody's on their phones or TVs or laptops or tablets or what have you, and there's very little of any communication. And what communication does exist, it tends to be very selfishly motivated communication about my demands on everybody else. And this is a sickness that has become interwoven into the society. And this is an opportunity for us now to come to grips with our own mortality and the mortality of those around us, that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is the one who's changing the situation, and that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is giving us an opportunity to come close to Him, that we spend our time wisely, and that we do not end up becoming the victim of our own selves and fall into that default setting of inna al-insana lafi khusr, that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala give us the strength, Allah give us the tawfiq, the ability, the courage, Allah ta'ala give us the fortitude and the istiqamah, the self-discipline to become among those that are inna alladhina amanu wa amilu salihat, and that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala make our feet firm so that we become وتواصوا بالحق وتواصوا بالصبر وآخر دعوانا الحمد لله